Welcome to Mattys Mental Health Podcast, aiming to spread awareness on mental health by sharing the real-life stories. All right, Jenny May is here with us today. How you doing, Jenny?
Hello, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing very good. It's a nice rainy Thursday
Yeah,
today.
sad. Like, it was sunny yesterday though, so I mean, that's okay. It'll be sunny again.
It's all beautiful. How's your day going? How's your week going? How's life?
Oh, well, we're just riding a roller coaster right now, but it's okay. That's the vibe.
That's good. That's good.
Adds to the story.
We've been chatting for a little bit, for a little while. Actually, probably like a couple of years. I think a mutual friend kind of
Yeah.
orchestrated this and thought you'd be wanting to come on and stuff.
Yeah.
We've been chatting a little bit, and you recently reached out again, and I think just want to say thanks for reaching out and wanting to come on.
No, thanks for having me on here.
So you sent me a little bit about your story, and you can just jump right into it, whatever you'd like.
Yeah, if you want to, I don't know, I don't remember what I said, so if you want to bring up whatever, then that's cool, and we can just vibe from there.
Well, from what I gather, it all kind of started for you with your mental health journey when you were younger.
Yeah, I was
Right.
about 13, and I just remember I mean, I was like super young when I was going through stuff, but I didn't really notice it, I guess, until like way later, and I was like, oh, this maybe is not normal living. But when I was 13, I had like my first panic attack, and I didn't know what I was doing. My parents were like, what is happening? I just remember like being on the floor, hyperventilating, like not knowing what was going on kind of thing, and just kind of all spiraled from there. That was when I was in grade 8. So yeah, I was pretty young and starting to self-harm and all that stuff. And uh, then yeah, like I seen a counselor for like a private counselor for like 4 sessions. I don't know if she just couldn't handle the heat or what. No, she was great. But yeah, I don't think I was at an age kind of where I really knew what I was doing to get help. My dad ended up getting sick around that time, and I was just really confused and stuff. He had cancer, so yeah, that's kind of where my journey with mental health began.
So like looking back at that time when you were in grade 8, like having your first panic attack, was there anything when you kind of look back and reflect that led up to those events? Did you have certain kind of feelings?
I don't even know. I just remember like I would just kind of throw myself on the ground and just like be in hysterics pretty much, and just cry and hyperventilate. And my parents didn't know what to do. They thought like I was just doing it because, like, I was a teenager, and back then still like there was stigma and stuff. And like they're great now where they're at. And shout out to my parents because they're gonna watch this. And yeah, they've helped me a lot. But back then it was still taboo. Like I didn't know what was going on, and neither did they. So there was nothing that triggered it or anything. I think just like being a teenager kind of threw me through a loop sometimes. I kind of went through some stuff.
Right.
Hmm.
So you went to the counselor, and how was that experience starting out?
I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like I didn't know what to tell her. I didn't really know I didn't know what was going on myself. So I just I talked to her 4 times, I think, and I think she was more so like a family friend, and she was good and stuff. But then I was on the wait list for Richmond Center, and we all know how that goes. Like it just takes a while. So I never ended up actually getting help right away, which is it's okay. It took me to where I'm at now, and it all happens for a reason, I think. Um, and yeah, I know this like they were good, like, but I think it was more so to help kind of with the anxiety that I had with my father being sick. So yeah. So it didn't last too long, and then I kind of just coped on my own and stuff after that. So yeah.
How old were you when your father started getting sick?
It would be 13, like 13 or 14. Yeah, 13. Yeah. So
Right.
like a little bit after that panic attack that I had.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, 2009.
So you say you got put on the waiting list for the Richmond Center. How long did it take to get into there?
I never actually did until I ended up in the hospital, because that just kind of sped things up a little bit. So I ended up
Okay.
actually at McGill, but yeah, I didn't take 2016 until I actually ended up getting a therapist.
Okay.
Mhm.
And at that point, did you get like kind of diagnosed?
Yeah, so um, I went to Halifax for 2 months for a placement, and I was just free, right? Like I've been very not sheltered, but I've lived with my parents my whole life, and I finally moved out for 2 months, and I kind of got invincible, and I kind of went a little bit manic. And when I came home, I instantly crashed after graduation and ended up in Unit 9 for 2 weeks in July of 2016. And they diagnosed me with bipolar type 2 rapid cycling. And so then I ended up with a psychiatrist and a therapist and all that jazz. And then in August, so like a month later, I had attempted suicide. And so I was just diagnosed with bipolar at this point, but I have quite a few other diagnoses since then. And those are my two first hospital visits. So, yeah.
So what was that initial experience like? Was that the first time that you felt manic? Like I guess like that gap between
Yeah.
like being in grade 8 till then, is that the
Yeah.
first time you felt?
I mean, I probably had like some manic experiences, but I never really knew. I
Right.
know that the year before that, I was manic, but I thought I was also just 19 years old and doing some crazy stuff like skydiving and not having money to pay for
Woo!
skydiving. Yeah. I mean, what do you
Woo!
do when you're manic? You go skydiving and then you see Aaron Carter in concert, right? That's just what you do. So you just plan it last moment.
Sounds kind
So
of
that's,
fun.
yeah, it sounds very manic. Yeah, nobody knew I was going but the friends I was with. So contact for safety if something happens. Who the hell do you put down for that? Because nobody knows you're there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun though. I got some good pictures and yeah, good times. But other than that, no, that's probably the only two before this, like being diagnosed and stuff. I was manic those 2 times.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you move away for the first time in Halifax
Mhm.
for a placement, and then so what? I guess just what kind of did it happen right away when you moved over there, and what sort of behaviors did you
Yeah,
start to
it
notice?
was um like I wasn't like visibly manic, I wouldn't say. Like I think that people probably thought I had my shit together for the most part, but no, I when I get manic, I now know that I start kind of abusing substances a bit more. And I mean, I was turning 20, so it's normal back then. And I say that very lightly because it's actually not that normal to drink and stuff as much as I did. But I mean, I was in Halifax and I was just living it up and stuff. And I just felt like I was on top of the world, like, and then I wouldn't really take care of myself. Like I would clean obviously myself, and but I wouldn't really clean my apartment. I would literally like have dirty clothes and just buy new clothes. Like I just bought and bought and bought so much stuff that I did not need, and yeah, just little bursts of mania, but not like full blown or anything like that.
Right,
Yeah.
just unhealthy behaviors.
Yes, very much so. But they did classify it as manic episode,
Right.
so I guess yeah.
So, when you get back, does it kind of escalate, and then that's what led you into
Yeah, I just
going to
got
Unit
back, and
9?
for some reason, I remember I felt feeling completely alone, and it just yeah, it spiraled, and I ended up. My mom's like, "Let's go to the beach. That'll help, and the sun will help." And then I ended up getting a super bad sunburn, and then that night ending up in a quiet room with a leather couch and a really bad sunburn. So yeah, that's kind of what happened there. And then in 2017, I just remember being like pretty stable for the most part. And then it all just kind of came crashing down again in 2018 and 19. Here we are.
I don't want to back you up, but kind of like, how was that first experience at Unit 9, and then like the
Um,
period between that and the suicide attempt a month later? What was that sort of mindset like?
I would say like the first experience in the hospital, like I just remember like trying to be super nice to everybody, I guess, because like I didn't really know how to react to some of the stuff because it's so diverse, right? So I remember like going on a pass and buying this little like magnetic fish aquarium and giving it to one of the patients, and like I try at first I was very shy, but then I ended up just like getting along with everybody and like, you kind of creating a family bond with people and stuff. So it was good, and the nurses were excellent. I don't remember it that much just because I've been in hospital so many times, but I do remember like meeting some friends and stuff in there, and they'll be always on my mind. So yeah, for
I'm sure you
sure.
kind of create a bond, a
Yes,
special bond with people that you're in there with.
yeah. I mean, like 90% of my friends, some of my best friends are people that I've met in the hospital, and I wouldn't change that. Like that's just, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes just I think when you go through, there's like a camaraderie in going through something
Mhm.
together, you know.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. It's well, you're living with them practically too, right? So for a
Yeah.
little bit, so you kind of got to get to know them.
Mhm. So, how does it go after you get out that first time?
The first time, they put me on medications and stuff, and eventually they started to kick in, but I just I wasn't I wasn't well still. I was still very low, and I guess the medication maybe didn't kick in by the time that I reached my second time going in. And I just remember one day feeling extremely low, and it was so weird because I got this like idea that like well, something was posted on Facebook, probably one of those like myths or whatever, that the world was ending that day. And I was like, you know what, that's how I feel right now. So instead of waiting, I'm just gonna attempt it myself, kind of thing. And it didn't go through with it. Like I attempted, but ended up realizing like, okay, I have people coming here in like 5 minutes. Like you can't do this. Um, so then I called my sister, and I spent the day still obsessing over this world ending. I don't know what it was, hoax. And so then I ended up having to go back to the hospital. My parents read my note and stuff like that, and my dad doesn't usually cry, and he cried, and so that was really hard. But that time I ended up in the hospital for a week, and then after that I was like fairly good. Um, I I just grew after that. I did really good with my psychiatrist, and then I got a new therapist after that. I think it was like a month or two after that, because that one retired and me and her got along really well. So I'm grateful for that experience that I had at the hospital that time, because it it really got me the supports that I needed at the time, and it helped me be healthy for about a year. So that's good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I imagine like you say that your dad doesn't cry, and like I imagine that like
Yeah, I've only ever seen him cry 3 times, and like I'm definitely like his girl. So it was definitely, I'd say, very hard for my parents to read the thoughts that I had and stuff like that. And for anybody to read that kind of stuff or even feel that stuff, it's just, yeah, I could only imagine the pain, and I just felt horrible, but they saved my life so many times. So yeah.
I imagine that kind of brings like a new level of support and like
Hmm.
understanding
Yeah.
from people around you when something like that happens, like
Yeah. Because I mean,
understanding
like,
where you're at.
yeah, because like after they realized like what I was going through and stuff, like I've been so close to my parents, and they've been my number one support completely. If it wasn't for them, I would not be here. So yeah, for sure. Like as much as shitty as it is to deal with mental health and stuff, um, you end up having really close bonds with people, and it can be beautiful even if it's madness. Is kind of what I think.
Yeah.
I try to look at the silver linings of it as much as I can, and that what you're saying is definitely one of them
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, well, I think it kind of plays into what we're saying about like going through adversity with people,
Hmm.
like builds camaraderie. Like it's like when you go through something horrible together, like
Yeah,
you
I
open up deeper to each other, and then that connection becomes deeper.
absolutely, absolutely. And like you find out things about people that they would never maybe even share with anybody else, right? Because they then connect with you. So for sure, it's it's a crappy, like it's not a fun thing to go through. I have literally almost died quite a handful of times, but be like you're saying, like there's good things about it, and that's definitely one of them is connecting with people on a different level. It's a completely different level. So yeah, for sure.
I think there's like a level of like I don't know if honesty is the right word, of just like
Hmm.
yeah, just
Vulnerability maybe or
yeah,
something.
vulnerability, yeah, complete vulnerability
Yeah,
to one another.
absolutely. Yeah.
Like you're showing each other who you are
Hmm.
completely.
Yeah, it's like I said, it is a beautiful thing, even though people look at it and they think, oh, it shouldn't be, but like it can really be. So yeah, as
So
horrible as mental health is.
for sure. So where does it go from there? Like so you said there was kind of an upswing for a year where you
Yeah,
started you get new therapists and stuff.
yeah. So for I had this therapist, and her name was Angela, um, and she was amazing. She saved my life. She got me on track many times, and so I was with her for about a year. And 2017 was great, but then the end of it, I kind of came crashing down again. And so towards the beginning of 2018, um, I don't really know what happened, but I just remember I believe that I was kind of getting manic, but like I said with my rapid cycling with bipolar, it's like you can literally be manic and depressed at the same time sometimes. So it's really overwhelming. And sometimes to mask the depression, I can get really manic, just because I don't want to be depressed. And I'm still like that to this day. There's not much you can do about it. But so that's kind of what happened at this point. I was going through just reliving some old traumas and stuff in my head. And eventually, I just remember going to my therapy appointment, but it had snowed the night before. And I had gone out without a snow scraper, without mittens, nothing, um, and took about 5 feet ish of snow off my car in under 10 minutes. About 5 minutes. That's not really normal. So I get to my appointment and I'm telling her, I'm like, oh my God, you'll never believe what happened, like what I just did. And they're like, yeah, you can either go to the hospital by yourself or we can get you there somehow. So yeah, I ended up going back to the hospital, and I was there for about a month. And at this point, I got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. So on top of my bipolar, at this point now, I had two diagnoses. Um, so that's 2018. And but borderline, like it's true what the doctors say. It's like it's so hard for people to for doctors to deal with. But I did start taking a DBT course, which is dialectical behavioral therapy, and that saved my life as well. I'm saying like a lot of things saved my life, but they did. Like these things have definitely saved my life. And then I got into peer support, which is through Canadian Mental Health, and just got on the right path and stuff. And so 2018 was pretty good, other than that one little stint of time. And then 2019 was kind of the year where everything crashed.
I don't want to slow you down before you get to 2019,
Oh
but
yeah, no, no,
what was you say is DBT?
yeah.
What was that like?
Oh, it was amazing. So I did like a classroom environment type thing, and so they open with mindfulness, which is basically there's like a meditation, a guided meditation, and they have 4 modules. So the first one is mindfulness, and then they have emotional regulation, interpersonal relationship skills, and distress tolerance skills. And it's based for people with borderline, but honestly, anybody could use it really. Like it's good for anybody, I think, because I also have other issues that I deal with that I use it for. And I use it with people that I work with, people that I love, care about, anybody. And so it's created by a lady named Marsha Linehan, and she actually struggled with borderline. So she created it just purely out of her own kind of issues, I think, and what helps her and stuff. So it's really cool. And I encourage anybody, honestly, to look into that if they think they deal with emotions and not regulating them good, or not having relationships that are very strong because of their illness, or even if they just don't have any distress skills, right? So yeah, DBT is really good.
It's almost like that should be taught in school to
Oh my
kids.
God. Oh my God. Yeah, like literally, I think that would be amazing. Maybe someday we'll live in a world where it does get taught in school, and that would be excellent because I know, especially because I work with um, children who have autism, and I mean, they would benefit so much. But even like a just anybody with a normal functioning brain can use it. Like,
Yeah.
you could have a
Well,
bad day, and yeah,
it's all just tools. Like these are like
it
it's all
is.
things you have to,
Yeah, I
deal with in life.
definitely, I
And it's the
call it my,
most important
yeah, and
things.
I call it my toolbox. And you're right when you say it's all tools. It definitely is. Carry it with me every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a super common conversation I have in here is like, what are the tools you use every day? What are the things you do every day to help with your mental health? And
Hmm.
um, for my job too, it's kind of like I'm a personal trainer, so that's like it's all about
Oh,
tools
yeah.
as well. I just think like,
Everything
yeah,
kind of goes hand in hand. Like even like you can use these for anything, right? Like even if you got like if you're in school and you got a bad mark on a test, well, you could get really angry, or you could find coping skills. Like I mean, you're not going to reach out probably on Google and type in DBT and like, but like you know what I mean. It's just I'm saying it like it goes for anything. Like you
100%.
just had a bad day at work. Well, like for me, like I can really debunk my emotions for the most part through DBT. So
Mm,
yeah, and I use it with work too. Like it's definitely, yeah, because I do work in mental health. So
right.
yeah.
No, it's huge. So like
Hmm.
meditation, mindfulness, and then mindset,
Um, yeah, for
being
sure.
able to
Um,
navigate your own emotions and your own relationships.
yeah.
That's like 90% of like life and how you're going to be
Hmm.
happy, your
Exactly.
relationships and your emotions and
They all play together, right?
yeah.
And radical acceptance was a big thing that I learned too, that they don't really teach in the course because it's kind of something you have to just learn yourself. And it's hard to explain it. So I don't really think I can go into detail of how to explain it, but it's just kind of like proceeding mindfully and accepting things for how they are, and knowing that you can't
Mm,
change them in the moment, right?
yeah.
And you can't change things that you have done. You can just move and grow, kind of thing. So, yeah,
Yeah, it's like the whole focus on what you can control.
exactly.
That's the only
It's
thing you
it's
control.
it's great to vibe with somebody who can talk about it, because like it's so important. Like this is my whole life pretty much, just TBT and stuff. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
great for sure.
Yeah, well, I think like there's like I was just talking about this on the last podcast I recorded. There's like this whole this sort of thing is very common now.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
is. Yeah,
like you
they're
see
really
it a
getting
lot
out
of
there.
there's like a whole shift almost like in our generation, older
Mm-hmm.
generations too, but like of mindfulness, self-growth,
Yeah,
and just becoming like the and mindset and just becoming like the best kind of version of yourself and
yeah,
like health
exactly.
and wellness and stuff. And like
And it helps.
everybody is usually doing it that's um like a lot of successful people are doing it, but just normal people are doing it.
Mhm.
There's I just see this whole like shift of
Yeah,
generation.
and that's the thing too, is like I know like even myself, I can get frustrated with the system. I think we all, as humans, are frustrated with the mental health system and crisis and stuff, but we have to know that like we've come a long way from like even just a few years ago, right? And
Hmm.
that's part of it. Like, and people will see it. We will see a
Yeah,
big change, I think. So we already are.
I think so too. Yeah,
Yeah,
huge change in the last couple of years. Because
exactly.
like, how old are you now?
I'm 24, and
Okay,
so
so
for what's that?
I was gonna say, or like roughly, I'm 25. So like, when you were in grade 8, like you said, you didn't know what anxiety was or panic attacks. Like,
Yeah, nothing.
if you think back to that time, like probably 2008, 2009, and like
Mhm.
even like I remember in high school, like 2010, 11, 12, like there was
Mhm.
no one was talking about anxiety or what
Nobody
that, like you
talks
didn't
about
even
it
think,
now.
you didn't think about it.
Hmm. Yeah. So
Um,
like the change just in that, like it is
10
mind
years.
blowing. Yeah. And that seems like a long time, but like I mean, where are we gonna be in the next 10 years? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like to think about the future too much, but I do know that we are going in a good direction, even if we can't see it right now. It just takes time.
And
And
really, I
I
think
know,
like, sorry, go ahead.
no, that's fine.
I was gonna say, really, I think it happened in less than 10 because like I don't
Hmm.
even know like 14, 15 they were talking about as much as like even 16. Like I don't really remember
Yeah.
too much, but
Yeah, I know that like my DBT started in 2018, and then all of a sudden everybody was starting to do DBT, and mindfulness was a big thing. And like they're teaching it at the hospital when I was there in 2019, like they had little crash courses on it and stuff. So I mean, yeah, there's so many other therapies, but I I wouldn't even know where to begin.
yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
I think with that stuff in particular, like that's something that like it all begins with you, right? Like that's like it's like a
Hmm.
self-learned skill, self-learned tools.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be ready to do it too, right?
Hmm.
That's the thing. That's the key, is that some people aren't. And it's like anything. Like once you're ready to do it, and once you're ready to grow and stuff and learn the skills, then you're set. And yeah, there will be downfalls. Like I always say, healing isn't linear, and that's the big thing.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
So that happens 2018, and then where does it go from there?
Oh, well, strap down, guys. No, I'm just kidding. Uh,
Buckle up.
yeah, buckle up. 2019, in the nutshell, was just chaotic. I was extremely like depressed. I was in a relationship with this guy, and he was amazing. Like I would never say anything bad about him, but I was toxic and I was unwell. And when I say toxic, I mean like I was still learning my DBT stuff, right? I didn't have that toolbox that I had. And um, I can't change that, unfortunately. I can't change the person who I was back then, who was a total monster. And I will say that. But I guess basically I was just really dependent on this guy, and he had to go away for a school thing. And I just crashed. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to cope, because with borderline, you do attach to people. And that was who I attached to. And so he left in January, and I ended up in the hospital in January. Literally got off the plane, and pretty much because I went for a little bit. And yeah, about maybe a few days later, I got admitted to the hospital. The first time, like, it was whatever. I didn't get much out of it. The second time, I was pretty manic. So I'll just kind of timeline it out for you. So I was in there in January to February, got out, got back in March, um, after another almost suicide attempt. But like I said, I masked my depression sometimes with being manic. So once I got in the hospital, like I was just like gone. I was really manic. But then um, that kind of helped me a little bit. But then in the midst of this all, I don't know if I told you, I had me and another friend, we did these fundraisers called Raising Up Warriors. And so we organized this big fundraiser kind of thing with, I think there was like about between 100 and 200 people in attendance actually. And we did like silent auctions. We had guest speakers. We had like musicians, like a whole bunch of stuff. It was kind of like a banquet, but not as fancy. So the first year was great. That was in 2018. But the second year, I was really sick for doing it. And so I was doing it in the hospital and then on passes and stuff. And my parents were helping, and my sister was helping, and anybody who could help was helping out and stuff. But it was just a lot. And then so I got out of the hospital in April, and instantly pretty much got sick again. But this time I experienced my first episode of psychosis. And that was very scary while managing all of this stuff with the fundraiser. So yeah, that was awful, to say the least.
What was that like?
Basically, I had this like shadowy figure following me around, and I never experienced anything like that before. So it was more like it was visual hallucinations, and it was everywhere. And it would be there if I had the lights off, the lights on. It was just there, but I had to kind of rally through the fundraiser, right? Because that was something I knew that I needed to do. And I knew that after the fact, I would have to be probably admitted again because it wasn't going away. And I was just really, really sick. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. I remember every night, if not every second night, crying and screaming to my mom about how much I wanted to die. Like I was probably the sickest I ever, and maybe hopefully ever will be at this point in my life. So this is about beginning of May 2019. And so my boyfriend at that time did come back, but he decided that he was going to move there because he got a job opportunity, and which was great for him. And unfortunately, I wasn't well, so I couldn't go. So we decided to break up, but we were together for 4 years, so that's a little bit hard. So we kind of spread it out over the span of the next month while he was still home. But in that time, I ended up going to Hillsborough for a month because of my psychosis, my like suicidal thought. Like I was just really unwell. I don't even know how I can wrap it up into one word of what I was going through because it was just so many symptoms. And I remember just being in bed for I don't even know how long, like it was days, and just sleeping because that's how much medication I had to take basically. And um, then I just became really depressed. And I was in there for 24 days. So I got in there May 4th, and my 23rd birthday, 23rd birthday on the 28th of May was the first time I actually got out on a pass. So that was pretty difficult. In that time frame, my boyfriend graduated at the time, and I didn't get to go. I wasn't safe to be out, I guess. And yeah, it was just a really hard experience for me. And in that time frame, I got diagnosed with bulimia and anorexia, and as well as OCD. And so then I had a few diagnoses going on there, and as well as like substance abuse. So they got me on the list for strength, which is a rehab type deal, but it's also for mental health. And so I kind of had like an eye-opening experience when I was in there and when my boyfriend moved and stuff, because I was like, you know what, like you can live like this, and you can keep coming back to the hospital. And I'm not saying people like should not use the hospital, but for me, I'm just like, you can live like this and be off work and be sick, or you can try to better yourself. And that's kind of when DBT clicked for me. I was
Right.
using, yeah, like I was using it every day and stuff, but that's when it clicked. And I was like, okay, you need to stop. You have not stop, but you need to get better, because you have jobs and you have things you have to look forward to. So finally I had like what I call like an eye-opening experience, and I got out and I just turned my life around completely at this point. So that was in June 2019. I did have a few downhill. I've had 2 hospitalizations since then, but that's kind of where my life shifted and changed. I did get diagnosed with ADHD since, but yeah, that's kind of the gist of it all.
So I think that's super interesting, like that eye-opening experience, and it's kind of goes
Hmm.
back to what we were talking about before. It's super
Yeah,
common now. It's like a spiritual awakening, and
absolutely.
I think you're right where it's like you can't do that stuff like the DBT, all those variables. You don't actually act on until you're ready. You don't really
Hmm. And at
like.
this point, I was like, like this person that I cared so much for, I just lost them, right? And
Mhm,
essentially because of who I was, and I didn't like who I was. And
mhm,
it wasn't that he didn't like it, it's just that he was going places and I was staying in the same spot. So I was like, well, you need to change that.
mhm.
Hmm.
So what was the biggest thing, like starting, like where did you start, like from day to day? What have been the biggest things that helped you day to day start down this path?
Um, Honestly, I did it really slow. My parents had watched over me. I didn't have my car. I just slowly got back with friends and stuff like that, and made new friends and stuff, and just kind of laid low, but like um still struggling with my addictions and stuff. But that's I mean, one thing at a time, right? And yeah, so I just that summer I got out with people. I had some good friends that got me through it and stuff, and I just tried to be busy as much as possible. There was days where I did have to stay in bed and stuff like that, but no, I met a lot of good people that summer, and I just had a really good summer. And then uh, I did get sick a little bit after that, but that was just from my eating disorder. Um, and then after that, I just kind of came back, and I now have a bunch of jobs that I love. I have a full-time job with security at the hospital, and I absolutely love it. Like I'm doing what I love because I have been there, right? So
Right.
yeah. So within that time frame, like that's kind of I started slow, and then I started realizing, okay, you can go back to work now. You can start working and doing things, and um, I started working with community care with mental health, and then I got accepted to work for CMHA's transitional housing. And now I'm security as well. I don't work with community care now, but yeah. So it's been
Wow.
it's been it's been really good. I've definitely conquered quite a few things over the past year.
Yeah, I think that's
Mm.
awesome. I think like it sounds like you were on this, like you made like conscious effort to like
Hmm.
slowly get better. Like it's like I'm gonna get better. Like it doesn't matter if there's setbacks, there'll be setbacks, but like I'm consciously making the
Exactly.
effort to like I'm gonna make it better.
Exactly. And I mean, if I'm being completely honest, and I did share it on my Facebook, uh, and this just goes like to show perspective, right? Is that um, the last little bit I have been struggling really a lot, and so I really appreciate doing the podcast right now because it's kind of reflecting, like, hey, we're taking a moment to show, like, okay, you've done it before, and you can do it again, and
Hmm.
yeah, like it's gonna happen where I'm gonna have days where I just relapse with anything, self-harm, suicidal thoughts, my addictions, whatever it is, just eating disorders, like anything. um, it's gonna happen, but it's just about coming back,
Hmm.
and we all can do that. We have the power.
That's a
um,
great message.
it is, and I know that, and it's unfortunate that some people can't see that, but I hope that maybe somebody hears that and it actually resonates. because I don't want to pump my tires, but I know I am living proof of it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it will. And I think
Mhm.
like, yeah, you are. I mean, like you've been through
Yeah.
a lot and you made it through it and you continue to, like, I think resilience is a big key to things as well, like being resilient.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's definitely something that you have been.
Thank you so much. That's so good to hear. I mean, you're gonna make me cry here. Yeah, I've had a few rough days the last little bit, but I've been hanging on. So if anybody
Mhm.
else needs that message, they can do it too.
Yeah, I mean, like all the hospitalizations and these
Hmm.
diagnoses, like I don't know, it's inspiring to hear that you kept going and you continue to keep going and you
Yeah,
strive to be better. I think that will
yeah,
inspire a lot of people to do the same thing.
exactly. And I just think about the people that I care for each day, and I'm like, well, you need to keep doing that. It's why I'm here. Is these people, right? That I meet every
Hmm.
day. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um.
yeah.
So I just have one more like question as far as like medication. Are you current like what's your current medication regimen?
Oof. I'm on quite a bit of medication, but it's what helps me. It's I'm on a mood stabilizer, an antidepressant, an anti-anxiety, something for my ADHD, um, something for my stomach because I deteriorated it with my eating disorder, and then something for PTSD nightmares. I don't have a diagnosis of PTSD, but I have trauma nightmares.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's it. But it's quite a lot. But honestly, medication, like if you need to take it, like you need to, like it's important. And
Right.
I can attest that sometimes when you go off your medications, it is not actually going to help you unless you do it professionally with a doctor.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thanks so much, Jenny. Thanks so much for coming on
Yeah,
and
thank
sharing.
you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad that you do this because my mom actually, oh my God, I'm sorry. My mom, I was telling her last night about it and she's like, yeah, my friend who doesn't have, I don't think she even has internet. So it's like, I heard about, we were talking about it on the phone. And so I'm like, the ladies are talking about it. So you're doing something good. Yeah. Yeah.
Listen, that's
Yeah.
good news. Ladies are
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah. So you should be proud of yourself too, Maddie. Like you should.
Well, thank you so much. Like,
Yeah. Thank
you know,
you.
I say all the time, but if it helps one person,
Exactly.
it's worth it.
Exactly. And just know that you really helped me, and my heart is warm now after doing this. So thank you.
That's
Yeah.
awesome to hear.
Yes.
Thank
All
you so much
right.
for coming on. I'm gonna
Thank you.
send you some salts. So we got some salts from the Prince Edward Island Sea Salt Company here.
Amazing.
Um,
Perfect.
this
Oh,
is our
shout out, guys.
sponsor. So
Yeah.
40% of all proceeds go to mental health programming at PEI.
Amazing. Shout out, guys. You rock.
So everybody go check them out. I'm gonna send you
Yeah.
some of those salts.
Perfect. Thank you
And
so much.
have a great day, Jenny. Thanks for
Yeah,
coming
you have a great
on.
day too. Take care.